Hey guys, welcome to episode number 22 of the Hold On To Your Butts podcast. And today on the show, we're Blevless, but we do have Wyatt and Buddy in studio, as well as myself, to go over a few fresh news articles and talk a little bit about professional gaming, ESports, and go into where you would hide from the cops if you had to, and more. So sit back, crack open a cold one, and enjoy!
So?
Yeah. Just like how you would murder someone. Are you plugged in?
See, that's what you get for using the headphones.
This isn't supposed to. The music doesn't play through the headphones. It's our personal cue. And then the folks later hear that, hello and welcome to episode number 22 of the Hold On To Your Butts podcast. 22 episodes in. It's exciting. I'm happy about it. I'm glad you're back here listening to us like you do every week. We just signed up to look where some of our listeners are coming from, so shout out to you, our Russian listeners. I don't know who you are, but thanks for listening.
And that guy in Norway.
There's a guy in Norway, and there's a guy in New Zealand. New Zealand. Let me just say hello to you. Is that Australian?
That
was pretty close.
I don't know what that was.
I think New Zealand. That's kind of sign.
Razor blades.
Yeah,
we're werewolves, not swearwolves.
I don't know what that's reference. And quick shout out here at the top of the show. Make sure to listen to our Game of Thrones Season 7, episode number 4.
You don't have to, though.
It is a pretty good show now. You guys are my first. You guys are my favorites. I don't like those guys. I don't like those guys
What
at
happened?
all.
What
they're just terrible people. I don't like them. They're mean to me. On the show, they're mean to me.
You're in charge of the show.
Wow! Oh, how the turntables! They're mean to you on the show.
Wait, how the turntables?
How the tables have turned.
It's an Office reference.
Fuck you.
Okay. So can I just ask you guys a question? I feel like I've brought this up on a previous show, and I just want to dig into it for a little bit here at the top of the show. Why don't you watch Game of Thrones? And I'm not saying this as like an accusatory thing. I'm just curious, like when a show
felt accusatory though.
I know, it did feel accusatory.
Yeah.
First, I would be remiss to say that we are Blevless this evening. Blev has the cold. Was it a cold? Is that what he said?
It was a cold, yes.
He's got a cold.
He said he'd be coughing.
Yeah, he said he's...
Is there a difference?
You're asking me, I didn't fucking say it.
Chest cough is a term to me that really is super descriptive. You know what I mean? Like when you hear chest cough, you're like, I can like hear it. It's like that...
It's a car idling.
Anyways, we're Blevless tonight. So just in the studio, we got a three-man crew in Wyatt and Buddy and myself. So my question to you guys is, like, when a show like Game of Thrones comes by, and obviously you know how like massively popular it is, and like what is stopping you from watching it, and is it? Well, I'll leave it there. Like, what is stopping you guys from getting in on it, or are you planning to get in on it at some point?
At some point, I will probably watch it. I just don't really. First of all, I'm not a fantasy guy. I'm not big into the fantasy genre. Fantasy.
That'd be a sweet rap name.
Yeah,
Fanta Z. Get sponsored by Fanta.
I don't know. I don't care for Lord of the Rings. I don't care for medieval stuff. It's just not.
I remember watching those movies with you'll watch the movies.
Yeah, I
don't
hate them or anything. I mean, they're better than like comedies and romances and stuff like that. But I probably would get in one day. I guess the thing that bothers me about it is I know that the writer hasn't finished the story yet, and that's mostly the writer's fault. Not the show's fault, and like they're pumping him out, and he takes 10 years to write a fucking book.
Yeah, but he's kind of like, isn't he? Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he working with them to direct the future of the show?
He shouldn't have to do that because he's had plenty of time to finish this.
As I understand how the situation sits currently, he has 2 more books to write. To Wyatt's point, but he has had discussions with Weiss and Benioff, I think those are the guys that run the show for HBO, and at least gave them like the general idea of how he wants the story to end. Now, like they are free to kind of come up with take creative liberty on how that happens, but like how they get to that end point. But what's interesting to me is, like, as a fan of the show who's never read the books, you know, there's both camps. There's people who are just fans of the show, people who are fans of the book and then watch the show or whatever. But what's interesting is, like, should I catch up on the books now so that when these other 2 books come out, like, I'll be missing Game of Thrones, but maybe there's more Game of Thrones, or like an alternate history version of Game of Thrones and how we get to the end.
That's a life, like, problem for me, I guess. So, like, there's so, like, Ready Player One is coming out, and people ask me, like, should I read the book before the movie? And that's really tough, like, because I've been in that situation where a movie comes out and I know there's a book for it, and I'm like, do I want to spoil the movie that looks really good by reading the book, or do I read the book afterwards? But then, you know, it really sucks to read a book for weeks or however long it takes you to read a book and already know the ending because you saw the movie.
I'd watch the movie.
You're spoiling one of them.
I don't really care for that book. I'd watch the movie.
Yeah, that's me too.
But it's so rarely happens for me that I'll read the book before the movie. But it's happened a few times recently, and actually most recently, I read the Dark Tower book on my vacation this past year and really enjoyed it. And then I ordered the rest of the books, or my wife got me the rest of the books for my birthday this year, and got the full set of the Dark Tower series. When I opened it, I was like, fuck, this is a commitment. Like, it is a lot of books.
That's exactly why I didn't ever start Game of Thrones. So I'm like, I'm going to read the books. I'm sure they're great. And then I just, like, never had time to read the full book. I love reading books, but I never had an HBO Go account, or I don't have cable.
Give you my dad's. Shout out to dads in general for not knowing how to use their cable logins so that, you know, millions of children around the world now get to enjoy Game of Thrones because of that. But, so most recently, so I got the Dark Tower series, and, you know, I'm starting to read through that just because I thought the movie looked cool, and I enjoyed reading The Martian before seeing The Martian. Like, I like doing it that way. I wouldn't, to Wyatt's point, I wouldn't want to go see the movie first and then read the book because I know how it's going to end and I'm investing so much time. What's cool about going to see the movie is, like, if you really enjoyed the book, you're like, okay, I want to see what their take is on this. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's got, like, abysmal reviews, though. 18% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
That's why I feel like, fuck, why did I order all those books? But the books are going to be great. And I just, because they're written, they've gotten such high praise up to this point, so I should just read the books, enjoy that, and maybe never watch the movie.
If I didn't read Harry Potter before the movies started, like, I don't know if I'd go back and watch those. After seeing the movie and just being like, that's okay. I don't know if I'd be encouraged to read those books, especially knowing how they all end.
Yeah.
Like, I would say Snape's character history is the most interesting one when you invest 6.5 books to 7 books into that history and then finding out what's going on with him and already knowing that when you saw the movie, because the movie's only a couple hours. But when you invest all that time and all that character development that only a book can do and a movie can't do, it's way more meaningful. But if it's so spoiled for you, really, I have no desire to read that book. The Martian, I read it before it came out, and that movie has way more character development than that movie could ever do. But that movie was fantastic. But if I were to see The Martian, I don't think I'd read the book.
So, like, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there's plenty of examples of this throughout, you know, space-time. But, buddy, shut up. We're trying to record a podcast.
Sorry,
Stop
guys.
sneezing. But, so, correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, the 2 best examples that I can think of off the top of my head, maybe there's 3, for, like, big series that had already garnered, like, a pretty large fan following and then came out in a different medium, like Harry Potter, obviously, which had great, Lord of the Rings, and then Game of Thrones, I think, are, like, the biggest ones. So it seems to me that for some reason, fantasy is sort of, like, the easiest thing to run with.
Hunger Games,
yep, which I would probably put in fantasy, sci-fi, sort of game, So I don't know. I enjoy. I guess I don't know where we're going with this, but in theory, like, I will read something first and then go see the movie. I just never read, so this has only happened 2 times. So
I guess I almost prefer that it's like a book I read, and I'm like, oh shit, they're making a movie out of that, which is what happened with Ready Player One.
Yeah.
The Secret of the Sinister Six and the Revenge of the Sinister Six was a book that came out when I was in 7th grade. It's my favorite book. And it was supposed to be into a movie, and it's failed 3 times.
Was it a book or a graphic novel?
It's a book. It's an actual book.
Explain to our listeners what that is.
What a book is?
It has pages.
Please, I'll break it down. No, what the fucking Sinister Six,
All right, so shit.
Just like I don't even know if they know who it involves.
All right, so the secret of this, it's 2 books. They're about 400 pages apiece, and it's about Spider-Man, and he is married to Mary Jane in the beginning, and it's wintertime, and a man called the Gentleman, he's a mysterious character, he's a rich billionaire guy, comes into New York, and he hires 6 villains to reprise the Sinister Six. Now, the Sinister Six isn't a new concept or anything. He's like, hey, I'm going to grab another 6 guys, and you will be the Sinister Six, and I will pay you. And the first book's all about the Day of Terror, and all 6 attack the city in separate locations at the same time. And he's challenged Spider-Man to stop them all separately, and he's working with S.H.I.E.L.D., who have their flying blimps over, and they're like relaying information to him, and he's setting them all up. And then the whole thing seems very odd. You're like, why are we doing this? What's his motivation? The Gentleman, why the hell does he fucking care about Spider-Man? He's not even American. How is he? And so there's a big ruse to it, and it's very mysterious in why he does it. Second book comes out, and it's a whole different vibe. It is way bloodier. It is way more gross. Like the Sinister Six come back, and then they have now it's called The Secret of the Sinister Six, and you find out why they did everything they did in the first book and the motivations of the Gentleman, and it's very adult. A lot of people die. A lot of people die gruesomely. The characters that you see in the movie, the villains, and you see in the movie, and you kind of like enjoy them. You're like, the Vulture, he's just a father, and he just wanted to provide for... No, he fucking kills people in a sadistic way. And the Dr. Octopus, he just kills people in a sinister way. There's no love for these villains at all. The ending is absolutely fantastic. I really recommend it. And of course, inside both the covers of the books, it says this is supposed to be made into a big motion picture. And that's when Amazing Spider-Man, right before Garfield, or it was supposed to be with Tobey Maguire, then that shit hit the fan. And then they had the second one after that, and then you could see the credits, the Sinister Six stuff being prepped, and then of course Andrew Garfield ran away. So but it's a fantastic book. I recommend it. It is very good. The second one is very, very good. A lot better than the first one, because the first one there's just so much mystery. You have no idea why the fuck anything happened. So if you didn't know the second one existed, the first book kind of makes a little sense. But I really recommend it. And that was supposed to be made into a movie, and that was just kind of cool, and it never did. But The Gentleman is a very, very cool bad guy. So.
Did you guys ever read Artemis Fowl?
Nope.
That book series?
No.
That's another one that's been in movie limbo forever.
Yeah, I've heard that. So, to the news! Do we have a news sound effect, didn't we?
That's why it's one sound effect.
The news! Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum-bum-ba-dum. That, to me, sounds like an evening news jingle.
What's wrong with mine?
I like
it was good. I feel like that was the lead-in, and then mine was sort of, I brought it home, and then we, we're sort of sailing into
next
the
time
news.
you do your own fucking sound effects.
Let's make a whole coordinated jingle for next episode.
Here is
I can show you
the news.
shining. We already did it. So I want to start with this one. I thought this was interesting. This isn't relatively new news, but I know we either didn't cover it or it happened right after our last show. But Bond 25 has been announced, the new James Bond movie. And Daniel Craig is confirmed to return as James Bond. Did you guys?
Yeah, I thought he retired for the 20th time.
Exactly. Yeah. So what is going on? And I remember, and I'm paraphrasing this quote that Daniel Craig came out and said. He was like, "I'd rather slit my wrist than play James Bond again." I don't think I'm even paraphrasing that. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what he said.
Are they like holding his?
Yeah, like he said that. So I mean, like,
are they holding his kids hostage or something? Like,
yeah, he said like, "I want to poke my eyes out" or something.
Something really brutal.
Yeah, gruesome.
But like, so my question to you guys is: are you excited? Like, are you going to see it? And should the torch have been passed to someone else at this point?
Buddy, how many James Bond movies have you seen?
I've seen a total of 1. It was with Brogan. It was the last one, Spectre.
Yeah.
All right.
So, it was all right.
I haven't seen a lot of them because, well, no, I've seen a good chunk of them. I really just don't give a fuck about the James Bond series. I think they're boring movies. I think they're all the same. You can touch it up with more modern shit. What do you look?
Can you send me a coaster?
Okay, you could use
I could just said it. I could just use my words. Yep.
I just think they're very, very boring. I think they're the same formula redone in every single movie. If you enjoy them, great. That's awesome. I just don't think they make a lot of sense. There's nothing shocking about them. I did like GoldenEye, but that's because I was a kid, and that was the first Bond movie I ever saw, and the video game came out after it. So great, I love that one. but I guess it's more of a nostalgia thing. It's probably not even a good movie, but I think they're all fucking boring as hell. Like